Hi, and welcome back to the Hole in the Head Moto Storytime Podcast. I'm Andy, and this episode is a major milestone in our pre-adventure conversation. After a candid appraisal of my priorities, I grabbed a mask and ventured out into the pandemic to look at a Moto Morini 3.5. You'll hear the full report, but in the end, will Blaine pony up? And if so, then what? Well, let's get to it. In this episode, a good report and a secret BMW person.
Andy, you may or may not have been somewhere. This is a very cryptic message you left me about the Morini.
Yeah.
And so tell me what's going on.
Well, so I went and looked at a Moto Morini. And for some reason, I felt like I needed to.
Oh, well, it's awfully kind of you, but every motorcycle person knows that it was at some point you got to put it above your work and above your family, and I'm glad you finally did that.
It was overdue, so I'm glad I went. It's funny.
Before you tell me about it.
I'm not going to tell you about it.
No, you have to tell me about it.
No, I'm not going to tell you about it. I'm just going to get a yes or no.
No, but before you tell me about it, isn't it a great time going to look at a motorcycle?
Yeah, well, I was just about to say that. Like,
when did you feel more free and happy? In the last month?
Inevitably. Well, I mean, with Craigslist, whatever, the long and short of it is, with a Craigslist journey, it can go either way. Usually it's pleasant because of the nature of what we are going to get. Like,
it's exciting. It's a treasure hunt. You could get skunked or you could score.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the point is, like, usually it's pleasant. This one was really pleasant, but sometimes it can be like just some ridiculous thing and you wish you hadn't gone.
I also afford myself a really nice frosty beverage, and I indulge in snacks that I don't normally get. Just to add to the wonder of the day. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's worth it. So, okay. So I went to see this Morini.
Okay.
And the guy I met, super good guy. He's just started a shop down in South District, south of downtown district here in Seattle. And just sort of opened up this warehouse space, had a full lineup of bikes that were either his or he was working on. And he just started this shop like 2 months ago. And that is in a climate that is, one, in general, there's a waning sort of motorcycle industry. And then two, there were two... Pandemic, by the way. And three, right. I guess. There was three major shops of import motorcycles closed in the last year. So Moto International, this big BMW kerfuffle thing that happened up here, the guy stole a bunch of money or something, and then Skagit Motorsports up north of us. So like these three major hubs of motorsports are like, we're out. But this guy opens up a new shop and he's like just working on bikes. And I refused. The industry can't be dying. You know what I mean? Like, bikes are getting more reliable, cheaper maybe, but the shop isn't as necessary as it used to be.
That's true. I mean? And unless you have old stuff and you have hipsters buying old stuff who have no chance of taking care of it.
Right, but I don't know if that is going to be the trend as we thought it would be maybe 6 months ago. Yeah.
These are deep thoughts that the motorcycle community needs to have sorted out.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the Morini.
Okay. So anyway, had a good chat with a guy is the takeaway from that.
Okay.
Walk in and it's big shop and
don't care. Just talk about Morini.
So there's a bunch of bikes. I find this Morini. It's black, not blue.
Yes.
It looks like it's fucking cute, dude. Like, it's so good looking.
Is it like real paint black, or because it looked like it was spray can black?
It looks good, but you open the cap and look in, and it was the original like aqua. There was a bluish, like an aqua green color.
Yeah.
So it originally was that color. And he kicked it over twice, fired right up. Sounds awesome.
I'm thinking we should buy it.
I think you should buy it. So leaving, I was like, I went to bat, man. I was trying, like, he's a nice guy. I didn't want to beat him up on the price. I'm not trying to say, whatever. But he doesn't have he has all the shift gear, the linkages and everything. But right now it's just set up for a right side shift directly to the case.
Okay.
With no rear brake. No big deal.
No. Oh, Just not a brake pedal, but there's
no
brake
cable,
there's
no
a drum.
pedal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. No big deal.
He says he has them.
Does he have the gauges?
No gauges.
No gauges. Okay.
Makes you feel better. I only have one gauge.
Yeah. All right. So here's the dilemma.
Yeah.
You just described this guy as a good guy. He just opened his shop. We've talked about how the motorcycle industry is suffering. Let's give him his asking price. Let's make some goodwill, for him and for us, and let's go get it.
Yeah.
Okay. But the other side of the moral dilemma is, why don't we wait 2 months when he can't make his lease payment?
Well,
and he's going to be starved when the reality of running a motorcycle shop sits in.
I got a little backstory. So on the rebuild, what happened was a woman owned it at one time, 20 years ago, 90s, and the timing belt snapped.
Okay.
So timing belt snapped, and of course that
knackered the valves.
Well, it didn't. It knackered the push rods.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, when that happens, it's suddenly very tragic. And so she went down, put a dent in the headlight, and if I recall, the tank maybe. Not terrible on that side, but I don't even remember. But so it went down, and so he rebuilt it. Push rods, new cylinder, piston, new piston and rings. Anyway, rebuilt it. And
everything that happens when the top end hits the bottom end.
Yes, and everything is fine. Runs. It started up second kick. He hadn't ridden it probably in 10 years, but within 2 kicks it was blaring. So if you were set up to do $5,000 on a BMW that no one likes, like, you're good for 3 on a Moto Morini. That
I think so, don't you? I mean, I was going to throw it away on a bike just because I wanted to have it, but I knew it was, it has no potential whatsoever. The Morini has potential. I mean, like, I don't really buy things to say, well, I'm going to flip this in so many years and look at this percentage. I mean, we don't own a hedge fund for buying motorcycles. We aren't accountable to investors for it. But these markets can change. Just like when we got into Ducati stuff, we noticed the things like, you used to always buy a parts bike for $500, and then now a parts bike's, man, if you're getting less than $1,000,
you're lucky.
Stuff you're looking for, you better get it, So I think there's some pressure creeping up in the, in the vintage markets and stuff. And what do you think of Morinis in terms of, not that it's a consideration, I think we're going to do it, but, well, here's the thing. I'll buy it out of my 401k if it looks like what would you think it would be worth in 15 years?
Who knows? Because I think that there will always be, in this case, the rarity is they're not getting more plentiful.
No.
And if they're not getting more plentiful, they're certainly not going to get cheaper, right? Because people that have them know what they have.
Right. But I think
in this case, I think it's good.
I wonder because there are other more interesting rare bikes to buy, but this one's so rideable. I mean, Morinis in general just are so rideable in the fact, I think that's why they have stayed desirable all these years. Is that in the end, it's a nice lightweight V-twin. It's torquey. It revs sweetly, and it's not hard to handle. And for the most part, people keep them running. Is that right? I mean,
yeah.
Can we ride? Can we ship our Morinis to France or to Italy and ride them around, and not work on them the whole time, or work on them the whole time in front of coffee shops with really interesting people to talk to? I don't care. What would be the experience if we road tripped on a Morini? I've never done it.
I guess I need a backpack because there's nothing to put anything anywhere.
No, this is just a credit card trip. You don't take anything but the basic tools and a credit card.
Yeah, I'd do it. I mean, there's no reason not to.
Yeah. Would you? I used to have like a Husaberg. You had to put a spare, ignition. You had to put a spare flywheel in it. Yeah. You had to have a whole bag of stuff just to ride off road if you wanted to ever come back not pushing your Husaberg.
On that note, I think he may have a couple extra transducers.
Oh,
yeah. I was like, you got what now? And he's like, yeah. Do you need one? I was like, yeah. I shouldn't have told you how much I paid for mine, but yeah, I do need one.
Okay, I did look at the page you sent me, and I can always create lots of trouble for myself by doing this. But I think if you stay with the original stator and flywheel and don't mess with that, just get those fixed if they need to be wound or whatever. But everything past that, I think you can mess with. You can get a different hall sensor, different coil, whatever. Yeah. And I think we're going to find a way to put something together should we need to. So, okay. So here's the final bit of the discussion. I mean, if anybody's listening to our show other than our moms, they know that we talked about getting a Morini back when I was thinking of killing you.
Yes.
Right. And then we weren't really searching for one. And now it's come into being.
It just happens to be
on our doorstep.
Yeah.
And now, wouldn't I just look like a total tard? I can't say that, can I?
You kind of have to. You kind of have to buy this
because I have to buy it
because you talk such shit about this.
Yeah, I mean, I was willing to kill you for one, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh, 3,000. I want to go to 28.
I don't know.
I think we have to. So this, I would agree. We laid this fleece out for the universe to respond to.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah. It said it's here. So now all I need is for you to go in half because I'm buying it for the show.
but I can't sit on it. I can't run it around the block. We still have to adhere to all the stipulations. That's fine. No. You know, it's funny. As I was driving home, I was sitting there going, do I trust myself? Like, will I'll probably take it around the block. No, I said I wouldn't. I won't. Yeah. I won't do it. I said I wouldn't.
Oh, Andy, I've already conceded the fact that it's going to lead to a huge fight between us later on. I know that. There's no trusting you in this.
We can safely say that if you want it, we can make it happen.
All right.
Logistics aside, we can make it happen.
So it's real $3,000.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So just so everybody knows, you live in the mysterious Northwest, where this Bigfoot of a motorcycle was hiding in the forest.
Yes.
And so now we found it. I'm willing to put the 3,000 down. Now I live down here in border wall country,
in Tucson.
All right. I'm looking at the border right now. I can see people sneaking over right now. All right. And there's some people down there protesting right now because they're upset about it. All right. I won't get into the politics of it.
Are there really? Are there really?
Yeah. Well, actually, they've shifted the protest here. It used to be concern for humans, right?
Now it's wildlife?
Yeah, I was going to say it's shifted to wildlife because evidently the concern for humans didn't ring the bell at all. So nobody's talked about, how inhumane it is to keep people out of our country. Now they're worried about the fact that you're going to knock down some weeds and displace some lizards in the actual footprint of where you might build a border wall. But we're getting 30 miles here of Trump wall. Anyway, all I meant to say is I got to get it here. You live on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Well, good news, it's spring. And work is flexible. You know what I mean? So, my truck is back to normal because it was stolen by some piece of shit.
Right.
And
twice.
And the locks were punched out twice. And now I've got it back together, registered, etc. And it runs.
It's a very desirable truck.
It's just such a whatever, like pieces of shit, whatever. Anyway, so the truck's here.
We don't like thieves. We don't like thieves.
Okay. So point being that the truck is a willing and able.
Okay.
I can throw one or two Morinis in the back of my truck.
Okay.
And head to Tucson.
You'd come this far?
Well, I mean, I could.
Well, let me ask you this: do you have any plans to come this direction on your holiday sojourn this year?
Potentially.
Well, let's nix that. I can't possibly wait.
Yeah, but that's way too long away. That's way too long away.
All right.
Is there a way to do this that is beyond it as a delivery?
Okay, here's what I can think of. One, we got to swing by and get that Bultaco in Sacramento that you sent me the link to.
Yeah.
Let's go. We can't say no to that. The only reason I said no to that, this is a Bultaco Alpina, not a real collectible bike, but it's a Bultaco. It's fun to have a Bultaco, which I'm going to bring up another reason why to have it. But maybe what we should do now is let's start trolling and see what can exist, what kind of deals are laying on the floor between me and you to see if we can go ahead and make an epic run.
I've already got potential paths to you.
Okay.
Because there's a guy in Spokane who's got a little Perilla. And then also in Northern California, there's 2 or 3 little stops.
I'm not allowed back in the state of California, so I'll have to have you cover that.
My half of the trip is, what about in Vegas?
I was going to say, you know what? I bet it'll be dirt cheap to stay there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, rightly so, but that we're not big gamblers.
Well, the big Vegas motorcycle auction's in January. We already missed it. But maybe there's some other motorsport stuff to do while we're in Vegas.
Yeah, or if nothing else, we'll just ride our Morinis up and down the strip like 3 times and then say our goodbyes.
You know what? Here's what I never considered. I've never bought a motorcycle that runs before. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to get this 2 crates from you, and then I'm going to send you pictures later on. This will be the first time in forever that I bought a motorcycle that might possibly run.
Yeah, out of the box.
I never even thought of riding them.
Yeah. No, this is good to go. Like, I think the tires are, it's good enough.
Andy,
you're fine.
Grand Canyon. Let's do the Grand Canyon loop. We'll start in Las Vegas. We'll go to the north side, around to the south side, come back.
Okay.
Is that too much?
Well, let's see. I don't think I can do a week long. This is terrible content. What we're about to enter into is some terrible brainstorming.
Yeah.
A week on a bike type trip.
Okay.
Because
it's going to be 3 or 4 days to get to Vegas if we're doing our shopping right. Yeah.
Buffer on either side of that. So
okay.
I think that there's something doable. Vegas is close-ish, or Salt Lake City, Bonneville.
Wendover is like one dirty corner of Las Vegas when no one's there. When the speed stuff's there, it's just magical. But okay, so let's plan tentatively to meet halfway and ride these around, unless we can think of some other compelling difference. Because I don't mind going further up your way if there's another experience that we're after, or maybe you'd come further this way if you wanted to. Something else down here. But let's
noodle on it. We've crossed a hurdle, or at least a milestone, which is looked at it. You're in.
Yep.
Okay.
Although I'm nervous, I can't tell you how nervous I am. I just.
Does it feel like a blind date?
No. You know what's funny is that I'm less nervous about buying a pile of parts because I just expect to do everything when you buy the pile, right?
Yeah.
This I'm thinking, well, I bought it kind of at the top of my range for one of these old things, and it's said to run, which is kind of like a big selling point. But then if I have to rebuild it, like if it runs, everybody who rebuilds a motor can probably make it run, but did it run for more than an hour since the rebuild? You don't really know what's lurking in there.
He's riding it. Like, it was his rider.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's way better.
And it's just an older bike, and he's got a few at his disposal. So he's going to ride the.
I guess I'm excited. I'm absolutely relieved that it's within our grasp. But as soon as it's within our grasp, I do have to admit there's this other track in my mind that says I'm going to blow $3,000, which is kind of my parts budget, for this until we decide we have to have something else.
Yeah.
But do you ever do this too? Do you ever think, well, what if I'm going to blow $3,000? What else should I be thinking about?
We've already had this. Yes, it's real. So here's the thing: you can get more grands.
Yes.
Can you get another ready to ride Morini?
No.
For less
we have to do it.
I mean, maybe.
But that whatever we consider the other Holy Grail bikes, they're all going to become available as soon as I commit to this.
And plentiful, and you'll have a choice.
Yeah, because this is tempting. This is tempting your resolve.
Yeah.
So
the beauty of it is he hasn't listed it. He's not in a hurry. He set a price. You have all the information. And
no, I know how. I've had this happen 1,500 times in my life. I get to this point, I'm thinking, "Yep, I'm doing it." And I'm thinking, "Okay, one more day of clearing the head. Okay, just breathe." And then I call, and he goes, "I sold it yesterday." Okay,
I decided not to do it.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to just get in touch and do it. But I'm just telling you, I'm nervous about it.
Yeah. So the more I talk to him about it, the more the more he was conscious of the idea that it was about to go away.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So he was more like, so certainly not willing to budge on the price.
Yeah.
But not from, it was more like, I said I'd sell it, but
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I'll follow up and we'll sort that out logistically.
Okay.
And then there's a couple we talked about this offline, which was there's some, like, these conversations, as they normally do, start with something sort of pedestrian and throwaway, and then suddenly we have a tangible road trip or something to do, or something happens. So in that spirit, going back to the BMW.
The BMW that your friend is buying.
The 650, she bought it. She went down to Fresno and got it?
Took
delivery. Long and short of it, it came from Sacramento.
Okay, either way, they got it.
They got it, and they've taken delivery, but it's a tall bike.
Yes.
So she has it, and I've been letting her borrow my bikes to practice and run around on.
Right.
So first she was going to take the Montesa, but I cracked the case with the Kickstarter. So we pulled out the Bull Taco and let her take that. 350, big bike, loud and dirty and whatever. And, the first thing that she said was, are you going to paint it? And I was like, no, don't.
Wait a second.
Dirty. Leave it alone.
But before the bike arrived, did she go down and buy some BMW boots and an
So
Aerostitch
here we
jacket?
go. No, not yet, because she knows better. So she took the Bull Taco, and so she's had an experience with that. And,
Right.
I want to get her on one of these, and so we can all sort of have this conversation, because I want to get her perspective on it. And I think it's interesting because we literally did not have that connection of our conversation and them going to buy this BMW. It's the same as the Morini, like it just happens.
Right.
So I'd like to have her on and sort of pick her head about it, because I think that she is a secret BMW person.
Okay. Do you think that I'll make her cry by making fun of her?
Because she's a tough gal.
We've tried this before. I just want to confess. I know that I will do my best to be nice, but if there comes an opportunity to make fun of her, I can't stop myself.
She's a good sport. She's a good sport.
Okay. All right. Just like you can't deny a chance to make fun of me ever.
Yeah. Well, right? So she's been bombing around on the Bull Taco, but it's too quirky, quote unquote.
Yes.
Too quirky.
Yeah.
So she brought it back, and then her husband, awesome, welded up the side cover for the Montesa.
Oh,
and
nice.
they're both engineers, and so he's like, he's not gonna JB weld it like I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
he actually melted metal together in an artistic and functional way.
He cut out the hole to be a real square, and then bent a piece of aluminum, and then tagged it in place.
That's a first class, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I can't wait to get that back. And now they're going to take that little Montesa and bomb around on that, so that she gets more comfortable before she gets on this.
All right. Is the obvious, maybe the obvious question is that, is she going to go ahead and do some of the lowering tricks?
She's going to, they played around with the seat, things like that. And she could speak more to that, but it's funny because she's just, what I'm telling you to me is indicative of how she's becoming a BMW, or she's an engineer and she's becoming a BMW person, because instead of just jumping on the bike and being like, all right, like you remember, I ran into a chain link fence. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember that your first ride had nothing to do with brakes, because you didn't give that any consideration once you had it running.
The bike ran.
And then also the whole time you were trying to get it running, you gave no consideration to the rest of us in the shop, and you did it inside all the time, and you nearly choked us to death. And I believe you might have had a minor fire.
Yeah. Well, but it ran. The takeaway is that it ran, and then in the parking lot it ran, and it wouldn't stop by itself. So the chain link fence, whether it was an accident or not.
So you're saying the titanium cup mug person BMW engineer buyer.
She's got a titanium cup.
Of course she does. You're saying that she has a different approach to her maiden voyage?
Listen to this. She's about to take receipt of her second motorcycle to practice on before she gets on the BMW. And I think that's awesome. Like, I have no self-control. I have no forethought of like, well, maybe whatever. Like, I really appreciate her, stick-to-itiveness on this.
Yes.
Ramping up.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to talk to her about that bike, and especially since I wanted it, so I'd like to kind of know.
Yeah.
And of course, I will just confess to her right away that, hey, the typical scenario of a bike owner is to get geared up, go out, scare themselves, and sell it. I'll give you $2,900 for it when you're there.
Yeah, I forgot what she paid for it, but she might take it.
Yeah. Well,
so okay. So we have homework. I got to jump. Currently, we're going to go look at a house that we can't afford.
Fantastic. That's a fun feeling.
I'm just interested in the garage. Does it have a garage? No. Okay.
And
we'll get lunch.
And there's nothing like saying, we can afford it and you could pick up some extra hours.
Yeah, because that's going to happen. Anyway, all right.
All right. Good luck holding on to your freedom.
All right. We'll touch base about the Morini.
Okay, great.
So there you go. Believe it or not, that was the hard part. And on one hand, $3,000 is not a small amount of money, even when the economy doesn't suck. But as we sort of put the willingness out there to acquire a Morini, some kind of magic happened for one to appear at the end of a sequence of totally unrelated events. And of course, That won't be the end of this story. I still have to get the bike and unite it with its new rider. And next week we will lay some plans as best we can and hope nothing goes awry. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Hole in the Head Moto. Do drop me a line. Better yet, click subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you found us. It is super helpful. Till next time,